Hi, hello, welcome. I'm Bloom. Thanks for being here. This video is going to be a little bit more chatty than my usual videos because I spent the last 6 weeks on Upwork trying it out for the first time, figuring out the platform, what works best, trying to land some jobs. Spoiler alert, I did get jobs, so I'll be talking about those. I'll be talking about how much money I made. I'll be talking about how much fees Upwork took. So how much money I spent on the platform, and also just my overall thoughts as like a small freelance illustrator and how that works. Briefly, for those of you who may not know, Upwork is a platform for freelancers to connect with clients, and basically clients post their projects and they ask for what they want, and freelancers can apply to those projects and jobs and hopefully make some money. And by freelancers, this is a lot of freelancers. I obviously was on there for illustration plus a little bit of graphic design and a little bit of animation. But there's also photographers, writers, screenwriters, UX, UI design, web design, social media marketing, SEO managers, whatever they do. Obviously, I'm going to be talking a bit more about the illustration side. If I missed anything and you have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comments and I will try my best to answer them. Obviously, I'm not an expert. I've only been on there for 6 weeks, so I don't know everything. Anyway, I hope that this video will be helpful to some of you, and let's get into it, I guess. I'm going to start with how I set up my profile on Upwork, basically the process of setting up a profile and things that I kept in mind personally when setting up mine. At the start, you choose between a free account or a paid account. Obviously, I went for the free account, also because it's my first time trying out the website, so I wasn't about to just jump right in and pay if I didn't know that I wanted to stay on there for longer. About halfway through, I considered switching to the paid profile, but I looked up online and most people said that it wasn't really worth the money. And it didn't really give that many benefits. I was hoping that it would give some sort of boost on your profile or something like this, or like that's what I think would be valuable to pay my money for, but it doesn't do that, which I think is a good thing. Obviously, that the free and paid profiles have the same amount of visibility. The other offers that they had didn't really seem worth it, so I just stuck with the free profile. And when setting up, Upwork asks you to like fill in your skills and areas of expertise so that they can curate which jobs to show you, basically. So I filled in illustration and animation. The thing about Upwork is that you choose which jobs to apply for. So basically any jobs that were specifically the animation style that I could do, I would apply for those. And then all the other ones I would sort of just ignore because they weren't applicable to me. So I guess even if you don't know everything about that skill, I would still list it in your skills because then you can still choose which jobs to take. Next, they also ask you about your years of experience. So basically you just fill in how long you've been, I guess, a freelancer. So I did about 2 years. And then they ask you what your hourly rate is. So I did put my hourly rate as $30 an hour. Disclaimer, I did not apply to any jobs with putting $30 an hour as my bid for the job. I was a little hopeful starting out, but most of the jobs I applied for, I did either $20 or $25 an hour. But yeah, I think it was still helpful to put $30 an hour because it still showed me jobs that had a range up to $30 an hour. So I think it showed me more than if I had put $20 an hour. Obviously, you need to decide for yourself what your hourly rate is. I will say there's a lot of people on this website who are charging very, very little. So to put yours very high, I don't think you're going to find a lot of jobs. I don't know for certain, but I do know that there's people on this website, freelancers, who are bidding like $5 an hour or $10 an hour. So if you have yours at $50 an hour, maybe you become in like a different bubble to them. So then you won't really be competing with the people who are charging so little, but I think I sort of still am. So I was trying to keep my fee relatively close to what they were charging, and then hopefully the client chooses quality over profits, but you know, usually they don't. But I don't think that should make you forget your own value or lower yourself to try and compete with them. I think for me anyway, I kept my minimum at $20 an hour, and there's always probably going to be someone that bids lower than you, and I think you should let your work speak for itself. I also think that the people who are charging super, super low on these apps should not be, because I'm sure their work is more valuable than that, but I can't tell them to change it, but I can tell you. Value your work at the price that it's worth, please. Also, to keep in mind, for the $30 an hour that I put on my profile, after fees, it was more like $27 an hour. So Upwork takes a percentage of how much you earn per hour. And then I work in euros mainly, so then switch that to euros, then I'm at more like 25 euros. So I sort of had to put the dollars into exchange rates to know how much euros I was earning each time, just to be sure. So I'm sort of thinking, how much am I earning after the percentage is taken off, and then switched into euros so that I'm adding a couple extra dollars to compensate for that, I guess. They ask you to connect your LinkedIn if you want to have all your education background and your job experience background on your profile as well, which is super handy. Okay, lastly for your profile is the portfolio. So basically you choose examples of your work to include as projects in your portfolio section on your profile. Just like give a small description of the project and then you put a bunch of photos. So for me, I chose to use this as a way to show my full range. So instead of one upload being like one project being like one client work project, I sort of chose to make each one a theme. Technically, these are all from different projects, but I just compiled them into one so that you don't overwhelm your portfolio with a bunch of projects. I think that's handier. I feel like I'm quite broad in my skill set. I wanted my portfolio to sort of reflect that. So basically I have my one project, which was all my digital portraits. And then I have another one that is specifically about Instagram posts I made for a client. And I showed how those looked. So I assumed that I would probably find quite a lot of businesses who were looking for people to create Instagram posts. So that's why I had this one. And then I have a compilation of all my children's illustration pieces on one project as well, so that if I'm applying to children's illustration projects, I can just link this one project. I also have all my digital illustrations, which are like full scene illustrations, and I sort of put them in this project called Fantasy and Romance book cover designs. Obviously, not all of these are book cover designs, but I think a lot of them could work for book cover designs, and I think it helps to give them sort of a place. Like it's not just an illustration, but it's a book cover illustration. And then I have my last one, which was a vector illustration project that I did for a client to show that I can also work with AI, and by AI I mean Adobe Illustrator, and make vector illustrations in a more of this simplified, illustrative, cartoony style, compared to some of the other works I uploaded, which were a bit more semi-realism, realism style, and on my iPad with Procreate. I'm now realizing that I don't have a project dedicated to animation, like my frame-by-frame hand-drawn animation style, which I think would be helpful. So I will probably make that after this video. Finally, to be able to be paid from Upwork, you need to fill in your tax forms. This was the scariest part for me. I hate tax forms. I don't want to do it wrong. I don't want to accidentally commit tax fraud. I'm very stressed about these things. But it was very easy, actually. It's just one form on their website. Depending on whether you are a US citizen or a non-US citizen, you fill in a specific form. So because I'm a non-US citizen, I had to fill in the W8BEN form, and it was very easy. Basically, it's just my name, address, and I think you had to find a tax identification number based on where you live. So basically, there are articles online where you can specifically find your country. I currently live in France, and then fill in the number based on that. I'll link the articles below that I used that I think were helpful. But yeah, this was actually very easy, and it wasn't as stressful as I made it up to be. So I'm happy that I did it at the start, because if you get a project and don't have that filled in yet, then they suspend your payment until it is filled in. So I decided to fill it in at the start. Very much wishful thinking that I would actually get a job and earn money, but it worked out because I did. Okay, we made it to week 1. Now that everything was set up on my profile, I was able to start applying for jobs. I quickly realized that to apply for jobs, you had to buy connects, and these are sort of like coins that you use to like bid on jobs. This was not great news. I was not happy to hear this because I did not want to be spending money because I currently don't have a lot of money. But I decided I'll try it out anyway, see how it goes. So I spent $15 plus $3 tax to buy 100 connects. And at this point I was like, okay, then I can apply to 100 jobs. No, jobs need around between 5 to 15 or 16 connects to apply, which from what I saw, yeah, a bit of a bummer. And they're also taking money from the money that you earn. This one felt a little bit snaky to me because you can go on the website, apply to so many jobs, and basically just lose a bunch of money if you don't happen to land any jobs from the applications you send. And it doesn't particularly mean that your work is not good enough. It sort of just means that there's so many freelancers on the website and you just happen to not be the best fit for that job. So I bought 100 connects for $15 plus $3 tax. And the jobs require around 5 to like 15 connects to apply. And I looked it up and it turns out that Upwork defines the amount of connects based on how valuable the job is. So based on the budget that they have and the duration of the project. I do understand that the connects are probably helpful to weed out scammers and bots, and it shows that people are really serious about applying for this job, but still I am sad because I had to pay money. Okay, so in my first week, I applied to 24 jobs. Here's the list of all of them, if that's interesting to you. I think they're quite broad. I just applied to anything that I thought I might be good at. I also made sure that the ones that I was applying to, I had similar works to back up as like examples to give them an idea of my style and that I would be able to do this work basically. If I didn't have any examples similar to the job listing, then I wouldn't apply because there's a lot of people on there and there's a lot of people applying for the same jobs, and most likely someone will then have an example that is much more suited than you if you have no examples. So I don't think it's worth applying to those. You also lose money because you're paying connects. So I quickly realized that Upwork is super saturated with a lot of freelancers on there, and within like 1 or 2 hours of the job being posted, a lot of them had applications between 20 to 50, like other freelancers applying for this job. I then decided that I would apply for jobs sort of as soon as possible, and if it was later than 2 hours, then I wouldn't bother checking because then they already had too many applicants that I would become number 16 on the list or number 25 or number 42, and I'm assuming the clients don't go that far down, so it's not really worth it. So I would choose the projects that were listed within the first maybe 1 or 2 hours and then hope that I was more at the top of the list rather than the bottom of the list. Unfortunately, I did also realize when applying to jobs that Upwork has a system for bidding where the freelancers can bid connects to make their profile or their proposal be on the top of the pile, like above everyone else. And the first 4 slots are open to being bidded for. So if you are the first to apply and 4 people bid a bunch of money, then you will be the 5th on the list. I found this really annoying. This is just Upwork trying to get more money out of me, so I'm not going to use this. Plus, I don't really want to find another way to compete with the people that I'm applying with. I would like it if everyone just let their application speak for itself and not for how much indispensable income they have to spend on credits to boost their profile. Obviously, not everyone thinks like that, but I did see a couple of jobs where the bidding was just empty, and then other jobs where the bidding had a top person bidding like 20 connects for a job that only cost 5 connects to apply for. And I used it one time to try it out to see whether it made a really big difference or not, and it didn't, so then I didn't try it again. So my average was about $20 an hour, knowing that $20 an hour means like $18 an hour after fees, which means like 17 euros. And I'm fine working for 17 euros an hour, but I don't really want to work for less than that. So I stayed sort of where I am, and I didn't let the fact that there's other people bidding much lower change my answer. I also think it's a little bit crazy that the website allows people to bid like $5. I saw someone who bidded $3, and I think that there should be a minimum amount that people are allowed to bid because it's sort of like a minimum wage and people are bidding below minimum wage, and that seems kind of crazy to me. But yeah, that's obviously not instated. When applying for a job, you can sort of see, depending on if they've worked on the website before, but you can see what their reviews are from other freelancers to them and them to other freelancers, and how many stars they usually have, and also how much they paid other like workers. And I saw a couple that were criminally low, like $3.80 or something, $5, $6. Makes me sad, honestly. And obviously I wouldn't apply for those. And those are often the jobs that I was like, oh, that's a really interesting job. Why does it have so little applicants? And then I went down and scrolled and saw that they were paying their workers $3 an hour. And I was like, okay, clear. That's why no one is applying for this. The first 2 applications I sent were for these 2 jobs. So seeking beginner cartoon illustrators for fun projects and experienced illustrator needed for creative projects. They were a little bit vague in their title, obviously, as you can see, but also in their description, but I sort of just pegged it to like they don't know how to write a good description, or their projects were so varied that they couldn't really specify exact examples of what you would be working on, and I assumed in the next stage, like messages or interviews, they would expand on it. I was really excited because I got a message from the second one within a day or maybe 2, and this was like my first day on the app, so I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. Things are happening already, crazy. And then this was the message I received. Hi, we appreciate your kind gesture and showing interest to work with us on this project, ... The ... was already giving me bad vibes. This is a job invite for freelancers. Judging by your profile as recommended by Upwork, and after checking your skills, I must say you're qualified. Nice to have you here. Kindly contact the mail address for more information about payment and deadlines, something@gmail.com, or search something on Telegram. I'm assuming they wrote Telegram like this because it's against Upwork policies to continue working with people outside of the app, because then Upwork loses money. Makes sense. Whereas at this point I was like, okay, the message is a little bit weird, but it could still be just people who are trying to skip out on the Upwork fees and work with someone outside of Upwork. So that felt a little bit risky and I didn't want to deal with that. The next morning, I received an email from Upwork, which is this email, basically saying that a job you applied for was removed. So both of them were removed for not being in compliance with terms of service. I don't know whether that just means that they were trying to get people off the app or whether they identified it as scam or spam. And either way, I was happy that I didn't interact with them or apply for their job or email them or anything. And in the end, I was like, okay, no one, like it seemed a little bit off from the start. So it was giving bad vibes. I saw this exact format many other times on the website. So basically looking for something for something projects, something like this exact like wording, and the paragraph of description was always very vague. It always said the ideal candidate and we're looking forward to hearing from you, or something like this. Basically the same recipe being like regurgitated over and over and over again. And I often saw that these jobs had very low applications, and that's why I was excited when I was applying for them, because I was like, oh, okay, great, I have a chance. But actually it's low because I think everyone else on the website has sort of seen them enough now too that they realize that these are not worth applying for. Oh, also when Upwork takes down a job application, you get your connects back that you used to apply for that job, which is great. Upwork has a built-in AI, which I think some people use to write their job descriptions, so sometimes the formula can feel kind of similar each time. But I think for me, I would look out for specifics, like what are you going to do for them? What are you going to make for them? What do they need from you? Also, a lot of people attach like examples in the listing itself. So yeah, I would look for jobs that sounded like an actual person wrote it. And even if sometimes it sounded a little bit formal and written by AI, I think that's because they're using the inbuilt AI from Upwork. So at the end of week 1, I had sent 24 applications. I got 10 views and I got 1 interview. So 1 person messaged me. This was very exciting. I was, besides the scammy one that I got earlier, but like a legit one. Leading up into week 2, I got the contract for that job. So that's great. So I got hired by the end of the first week. So on the start of the second week, I could start working on the project. The job application that hired me was this one, which was digital illustrations for Substack banner and thumbnail. So basically the client was looking for an illustrated banner, which seemed pretty simple to do for me. They wanted in a vector drawing style, so on AI, Adobe Illustrator. And then they wanted a text-based and an image-based logo to go along with that for their newsletter. As I mentioned before, I do have a background in graphic design, so I can do logo design and have done in the past. It's not my main activity, but I can do it. So I was happy to do this, and I had examples to show him of logos that I've made in the past. I spent the next 3 days working on this project with the client. He lived in the US, so I sort of worked, sent him an update, and then by the time he woke up, he would look it through and then send his feedback, and then I would work throughout that day, and then that sort of repeated for 3 days. It was really good communication. It was really clear. For this job, I applied for $20 an hour, and I got it for $20 an hour, which was great. After Upwork fees, that's around $18 an hour, and then around like 17 euros an hour. So for the banner illustration, he was pretty clear. This was the reference image that he wanted, and then he wanted me to edit it a bit, have it be illustrated, and change some aspects. So I changed the face to be his face, and I added some elements, changed some colors, changed the outfit and the shoes. This was relatively easy. He had like a clear vision from the start, so I just had to get to it and make it, and he was happy with what I made. So for the image-based and text-based logo design, he gave me more creative freedom to just explore a bit and give him some examples and see what I could come up with. And the only thing he gave me was that his newsletter is about basketball. So the title is The Basketball Shorts. And that he talks a lot about the 90s. He talks a lot about 90s magazines and 90s basketball players. So based on these information, I came up with a couple ideas. These are my ideas that I sent to him. And he really liked this idea of the cassette tape that looks like a basketball court. So we went further with that idea. I sort of just refined it onto Illustrator and made it vector and chose the matching logo design and then matched them together with the same color schemes. And he was really happy with this. It was pretty easy. He didn't have a lot of feedback. He was basically happy with everything I made, which was great. It feels good. Confidence boost. So it ended up going really fast. I worked 8.5 hours, so sort of like one work day. and I billed $170, and after Upwork fees and taxes, this was $149.60, which is around 142 euros. For week 2, I spent most of my week working on this project, so I didn't really apply to a lot of other jobs, but I did apply to these 3, and I got 2 views and no messages and no interviews. I also had to buy 100 more connects, so I had to pay another $18 because I ran out of connects. So I think at around 22 job applications or 21 job applications, I ran out of connects. So that sort of gives you an idea of about how much 100 connects can buy, though it's really varied on what jobs you're applying to, obviously. Also, at the start of this week, I got my account suspended because they needed me to verify my identity by uploading a picture of my ID or my passport and a picture of myself. This was a little bit annoying because when your account is suspended, they don't show your proposals to anyone and they don't show your profile to anyone. So luckily, it sort of coincided with the time that I had this project to work on anyway, so I wasn't applying to a lot of jobs, but there was a lot of jobs from week 1 that I was hoping might still hire me, but I uploaded those things and then they told me to change my profile picture because I had a drawn profile picture, like of myself, a portrait I drew, and that was against their guidelines, so I changed it to an actual photograph of me. And then I think within like 3 to 5 days, everything was sorted, but that's sort of a whole week gone. If you can, I think I would try and verify your identity before you get a job, just so that you don't have any issues of having your account suspended. Okay, so for week 3, this week I also didn't apply to many jobs. There wasn't a lot that I was connecting to or feeling like I could really apply to. Is this because the jobs listed were less fitting, or is it because my motivation and confidence in myself took a little bit of a dip? I think both. I think in the first week I was sort of like, nothing to lose, just apply for all these jobs, whereas in the 3rd week I was sort of like, okay, maybe I should really apply for jobs, not waste money, choose the ones that I feel like really fit and I could really see myself working on. So I was becoming a little bit more critical. I was looking daily to try and find jobs. I have this bot that I found online, which is called the zenfl Upwork bot, and basically it connects to Telegram and it sends you a message every time a job is uploaded. So this was super handy for me because then I didn't have to just keep checking the app, but I could just see in my notification center if there was a job that specifically felt like it matched to me. I would open it, I would check the description and maybe apply. So if you really wanted to try hard it, I would suggest the bot. But I also think that you sort of need to try hard a bit for Upwork because there's so many freelancers on there. You sort of had to put in quite a bit of effort to try and be the fastest, have the best profile, takes some form of quite a lot of commitment to find a job on this app. For the bots, unfortunately, they did change to a paid version halfway through of me using it, but they do have a trial of 10 days. So if I were you, I would suggest to use the trial when you start on the app or on the website, and then use it to try and land your first job. And then once you have your first job, it shows up on your profile that you have worked, how many hours, how much money you've made, and you also have like a review from your clients, how many stars they gave you, and the little message that they left behind. And you can get a little badge that is like rising talent. And I think all those things combined make you look a bit more trustworthy and hireable. So then maybe you don't need the bot as much anymore. So I applied to these 2 job listings in that week and I got 2 views, but nothing came of it. However, I got a message from one of the jobs that I applied to from week 1, which was character designer for custom boutique Instagram posts. I had been excited about this job listing when I applied for it, so this was really great that they got back to me, and it was about 2 weeks later, so it felt a little bit strange, but I think that maybe they all sort of fell through, so they went back to the list of applicants and then stumbled upon me and decided to continue further with me. Great. Fantastic. I was really excited about this. The communication was a little bit slow. They took like 1 to 2 days to reply each time. So I sort of wrote my messages in a way to try and be as clear as possible every time, and also to try and get them to send a contract to me so that we could confirm our working together. And that worked. After a couple of days, they had sent all the reference I needed, asked them what their budget was, which was $250. And I said, if you're happy with everything, feel free to send the contract and then I can get started right away. And they said, yes, we're happy, and sent me the contract. So leading into week 4, I was working on this project. Basically, they wanted for Instagram cute little drawings of characters inspired by the Dress to Impress game, which I'm a big fan of. So I was excited for this project because I wanted to work and draw the cute little Dress to Impress characters. And they wanted them to be wearing clothes from their boutique. So basically, they sent me a bunch of links to a bunch of articles of clothing with a bunch of different images. so that I would have all the references I need to draw the items of clothing onto Dress to Impress type characters. I spent about 2.5 weeks on this project. Throughout, I was sort of watching how much time I was taking, how long each individual character would take me, and that tried to estimate whether I would be able to finish all the drawings within the budget. They wanted 9 illustrations, so I tried to include some shortcuts. So for example, including the same poses and repeating the same bodies. So that way I was able to save some time in between, and a lot of the items of clothing were also just different colorway versions of the same item, so then I could just drag and drop, change the color on Procreate, and then make some small edits, and that was pretty easy, saved a lot of time. So these are the posts that I made and all the little characters. I spent just under 12 hours working on this project, which means I made $233, and after fees around $205, I earned 195 euros around. So in these 2 weeks, I applied to a couple more jobs. These are them, and I got 3 views and no hires. Comparing myself to when I was applying to jobs before using the bot who gave me the notifications, and after, I noticed that I got a lot more views afterwards because I was quick enough to apply to the jobs that I was one of the first 5 or 10 people. So I do think the bot was super helpful. But yeah, so I sort of rounded off this project. Don't have a next project lined up yet. But I've also sort of slowed down on how much I've been applying for, as you can see. Okay, so in conclusion, I spent around 5 to 6 weeks on Upwork. I got 2 projects. I made around $354. This is after fees, so around 336 euros. Deducting the amount that I spent on Connects, I earned around 302 euros. Is this a lot of money? Not really, but for me, who is not earning a lot of money right now, this is a pretty good amount of money for the amount of hours that I worked, which was not a super lot. I think it would be really great to be able to try and land a long-term project on the app, so between 1 to 3 months instead of these really like quick turnover small projects. Hello, edit from future me. I landed my first long-term project. So that's really exciting. I didn't expect it to come so soon. I'm editing this video to post it today, so this is a very recent development, but I thought it was important to share it. Basically, it's a company that's looking for an illustrator to create portraits of team members from their company. They asked me to do a trial portrait to make sure I could match the already existing portraits on their website, and they're willing to pay me $200 to make the trial portrait. I think this is already a really good sign that shows that they care about people's time and effort, and that they're willing to compensate me even if we don't continue working forward, because I did put time into doing the trial and they liked my trial portrait. So they're wanting to work with me further on a long-term basis. First, I'll be creating 11 portraits of existing company members right now, and they're paying me $200 per portrait. And then I will probably be working with them on a month-to-month basis, working on about 3 to 5 portraits a month when they get new team members in their team. I'll be earning around $600 to $1,000 a month working on this project. This is exactly what I was looking for, so this is really great. But yeah, I thought that was an important development to share because it's quite big news. Anyway, back to the video. I wouldn't say it was super easy to get these jobs. I applied for quite a lot. So in the end, I applied for 33 applications. I got 17 views, so about half of the amount that I applied for were actually viewed. And then I got 2 interviews and the 2 hires that came from those 2 interviews. In general, the job application process is not that difficult. Like, it's pretty fast. You write your cover letter, you include some of your examples. Sometimes there's a question or 2 you have to answer as well. So that can go pretty fast, especially if you're using sort of the same examples each time that you sort of have them prepared. I guess the only thing that does take time is the searching for jobs, looking through, taking multiple times in a day to like sit down and read through all the applications and try to be the fastest. That part is a little bit time consuming and a little bit annoying. The bot helps a little bit, but yeah, if you want to get the jobs, then you sort of have to be trying to go as fast as you can, I guess. Also, because there's so many jobs being posted per day and per hour, I think there was about 4 to 5 job listings that were applicable to me per hour. I didn't apply for all of those, obviously, but then 1 or 2 that were like, oh, I would actually work on this, and the budget is good, the guy looks trustworthy, it looks like not scam, let me apply for this project. So I think in general there are a lot of jobs on there, which is great. I do think it's helpful to have a varied skill set so that you have more things that you could apply to. I will say, if you happen to be a manga or anime style artist, there is a lot of jobs on there and they always have so little applicants. I'm like kicking myself that I don't know how to draw in this style because there was so many possibilities. So if that happens to be your niche, I would get on the app because there's a lot of people looking for this. Overall, I'm pleasantly surprised with my Upwork experience. I managed to get 2 jobs, which I was not sure I would get for a while. I managed to get them for a fee that I feel comfortable being paid for. Also knowing that I'm not full-time applying for jobs, I'm not putting in 100% of my time into Upwork. So if I were to do that, I think I could probably have gotten more jobs in that amount of time. I'm definitely going to keep using Upwork, I think. I am enjoying it so far. I hope this video was interesting for you. I hope it was helpful if you are trying to decide to go on to Upwork or not. I tried to include everything, but I probably forgot some stuff. So if there's anything that you want to ask, let me know in the comments. I will try my best to answer. But yeah, besides that, thanks for making it to the end of the video and have a great day.